Greetings all, and welcome to another Tale of Woe. I am your storyteller Tim, and today we continue the adventures in Ravenloft. In the last episode, the group had managed to defeat a massive tree ant by the name of Wintersplinter and recover two stones from the Wizards of Wine winery that would allow for plants to grow without the requirement of sunlight, which there is none of in Barovia. One of the key features of the landscape being that there are forests, but most of the plants are dying or dead. It's almost like perpetual overcasts, the entire place. So all the flowers, everything is dead. The only thing that really seems to thrive in this environment are the blight plants, which they also have been having quite a few encounters with. During the battle, they suffered one major casualty with the actual death of the character of Nuru. And one thing that I had failed to mention in the previous one was that also during the battle Selena actually had her arm completely severed by Wintersplinter, and it basically just bit her arm completely off. But they did manage to recover the arm after they defeated the tree, so that was something. They made their way back to the Abbey of St. Markovia, and they met up with the abbot and pleaded with him for assistance in raising their dead party member. Now, what they didn't know about the abbot was the abbot is actually a deva, or diva, however you pronounce it, an angelic being that has actually been twisted by Strahd. So he's a little bit insane, but he is in disguise, and he has revealed himself to the party as a cleric. So he knows how to raise people from the dead using resurrection. So they plead with him to assist in reviving Nuru. Unfortunately, these type of spells do not come cheap. They require specific components, which he has, but he's not willing to give them away for free. So they barter with him, giving away certain items that they stole from the Burgermeister's mansion. And interestingly enough, he also wants Selena's severed arm, which she does give up, with some reluctance, but there it goes. One of the things that the abbot is actually doing is he's attempting to cure Strahd of his madness. One of the points about Strahd is that he has been driven slowly insane in Ravenloft by the loss of his beloved. And one of the things that keeps happening over and over again in Ravenloft is that someone will be born in Ravenloft that resembles his beloved, and he will attempt to woo and wed her, either by kidnapping her or turning her, and then always just at that last moment when he's about to be happy, she's snatched away from him again, and thus continues his torment. The dark powers of Ravenloft always having that sick sense of humor. But the abbot is convinced that if he can create a bride for Strahd, then he can alleviate the evil from Strahd's heart. And as such, he has created a flesh golem, which is stitched together from various women all throughout Ravenloft. And this is not like a normal flesh golem, which is sort of like the evil Frankenstein monster. This one has been beautifully stitched together from the most beautiful women in the land, meticulously designed, and has been instructed in the ways of etiquette so as to be the perfect bride for Strahd von Zedovich. And as such, maybe a tiefling hand might add something a little bit extra. So that is what he wanted the arm for. Not that the party knew this at the time. The other interesting fact, too, was that when Nuru died during the battle, the ring that contained Willard actually fell from her hand. It actually detached, and Nuru's soul was also trapped inside. So she'd been having rather uncomfortable conversations with the Mad Mage inside the ring. basically describing it as this weird castle encased inside a black sphere. That was what he was able to perceive. And he could perceive also from one of the towers, he could see out of the ring through the eyes of the person who was wielding the ring. That was how he was able to see what was going on in the world. But being that he's trapped in this other dimension, as it were, within this ring, his magic doesn't work quite as well as it should, hence why he has random effects when he attempts to put his will into the real world. So Selena has been dealing with both the voices of Nuru and Willard, arguing all the way through, and is desperate to get them out of her head. And of course, Nuru is sort of happy to be free of the ring from her hand, not so happy to be stuck within the ring herself. So, a long story short, too late, the resurrection ceremony goes through, but it doesn't work, and then the abbot suggests that potentially she needs to place the soul on to the body, which Selena then does, and a door opens up on the inside of the ring, and Willard goes, "That's my way out!" And so it's actually a race for the two of them, both Nuru and Willard, fighting with each other, trying to get out of the door inside this dimension, which, fortunately, Nuru actually won. Otherwise, Nuru's character would have been trapped inside the ring, and Willard would have been possessing her body. But, fortunately for her, the roles went in her favor this time, and she was able to reclaim her body. So she is now back to life, and all is well with her, and she is shown to her room by this strangely veiled woman with scars all over her arms. And she is basically sent to rest. And she's able to finally breathe easy that one of the tasks that she's been searching for this entire time, a way to remove the ring from her finger, has at last come. And now really her only issue is getting out of Barovia with the rest of the party. Selena then retires to her room, and she also managed to, during the attack on the Burgermeister's mansion, and also previously while camping with the party, she had retrieved the tome that they had, the original party had recovered from the Sage, which was the book that her master had sent her to retrieve. So she had this book, but she couldn't read it. She wasn't able to comprehend the language that was within it. And she'd also managed to retrieve a book that the Burgermeister's son was using to create the teleportation circles. And with the assistance of Willard inside of her head, she was able to translate both of those books, and also worked out where the problems were with the spell, why the teleportation circle was causing dimensional shifts rather than actual teleportation. So she had a book with the spell of teleportation circle, as well as a book of lore about this mystical stone. Another mystical stone. There's quite a few mystical stones in this campaign, you'll soon find out. But this main mystical stone that they were sent to retrieve. Another aspect of it was that Willard was actually able to perform a magic trick, as it were, to restore her arm. Basically, what I had her do was stand on. There was a large mirror in her room, and basically stand so her half of her body was in line with the mirror, and then place her hand on one side of the mirror and pretend, like, try to put her arm on the other side of the mirror, like her fingers were touching, and then to look on the other side of the mirror. And then when she pulled back, she had a magic hand. Basically, the arm that had been removed was now glowing. So she effectively had a permanent mage hand attached to a spectral wrist, and the ring had migrated from her actual hand to the spectral hand, which would come into play a little bit later on in the campaign. This was one of my more devious tricks, at least I thought so. But for the time being, all was well, and their next stop on their journey was up the mountain that they, well, tell a lie. The next part of their journey, they had downtime. They went and returned the stones back to the town of Valaki, and then they returned back while Nuru was recuperating to the abbey. And then, once Nuru had finished recuperating and the stones were back in the town of Valaki with the owners of the Wizards of Wine winery, their next stop was the Amber Temple. And that's where we'll pick up our story next time in the next Tale of Woe.